been following Anderson, right? He main event taking on Uriah Hall is where I'm coming from on this. But I've been following a lot about what's going on with Anderson. He's suddenly been more accessible, right? Anderson's had big fights in his whole career. Has he ever not been in a big fight? But there seems to be something that is making and drawing him to the media more for this fight. And something I would like to correct by my own interpretation, see if you guys agree with me, is that this is Anderson's last fight. So Dana came out to talk about Anderson's contract the way I understand it, but he has 2 fights left in the UFC. The way I understand it is Dana kind of thought, you know what, we're done. And Anderson goes, well, I don't want to be done, and I got a contract. And he goes, okay, Dana, okay, let me meet you in the middle. I don't want you to fight again. You want to fight 2 more times? How about we do 1 more? How about we meet each other in the middle, we do 1 more? And Anderson agreed to that. Now, everything I just said is me connecting a little bit of dots, but I think I'm close. I think I'm spot on that that's how this came about. Point I'm trying to make for you. A lot of attention around this being Anderson's last fight. That's not what Anderson has said. Anderson has come out, he's done a lot of media, and he's been very clear to say, even as recently as yesterday, talking with Uriah Hall, he's been very clear to say, this is my last fight in the UFC. He's been very clear to put those 3 little letters there. Then he had his coach come out, a trainer came out last night, and that trainer did an interview, and that trainer said, let me make this really clear for you. This is Anderson's last fight in the UFC. He is not done fighting. He's fired up. He's got energy. He's in the gym every day, right? X, Y, and Z. So I don't know that this is a piece of Anderson trying to go out into free agency. I don't know if it's a cash grab and he's still got to, make some hay while the sun shines. I don't know. I do know that I am right when I bring to you that at least within Anderson's mind, this is not his last fight. It is his last fight in the UFC. Taking on Uriah Hall. I'm very close with Uriah Hall. And I get very nervous. I get nervous before Uriah's fights. And Uriah's in an interesting spot in this regard, okay? From where I'm sitting, from where you guys are sitting, this is pretty clear. Uriah is just simply the better fighter right now. He's just simply faster. He's just simply still within his step. He's just simply been busier. He just is simply going to win. I then have to ask myself, and when I talk about I get a little bit nervous, does he know that? Does Uriah know that? Because when you're in the moment, you don't think of it like that. You don't look at Anderson Silva and say, well, this guy's not what he once was. Even if you come to that conclusion, but I hear people do that a lot. Well, this guy's no longer in his prime. What the hell does that have to do with me beating him tonight? What the hell does his prime or his better, what's that have to do with me beating him? Just because you have identified that the opponent that I'm getting ready to fight had a better day, what does that mean that I can beat him tonight? I mean, it's one of these things. You got to put yourself in Uriah's shoes, okay? So let me just give you guys a quick reminder. When you guys, the world, and myself included, were introduced to Uriah Hall, it was on The Ultimate Fighter in 2013. Now, Anderson Silva was the champion of the world. We would be on set of The Ultimate Fighter. There's a great big poster of Anderson Silva with the belt over his shoulder. And Uriah was doing so well on The Ultimate Fighter, his final fight on The Ultimate Fighter, right? They go through the semis, or they go through the finals. You have your semifinals and everybody says goodbye and you pack up and leave, go back to your training camps, and you come to the actual UFC to contest, which in that case was Uriah versus Kelvin. But Uriah's last fight, so it would have been the semifinal, but it was his last fight on that Ultimate Fighter. He won the fight by TKO from the bottom. Hear what I just said. Uriah was down. When guys are down, they're trying to do one of 3 things: protect themselves, get up, or look for a submission. Uriah Hall started pounding. He got a TKO. The referee stopped the fight. Uriah was on his back and he was hitting so hard and he was cutting. So the referee stopped the fight. Never seen it before. And I remember Dana White turned to Craig Bersari and he goes, What am I going to do? Dana said that first off. He goes, TKO from the bottom. I have never seen that before. And he turns to Craig and he goes, what am I going to do with this guy? His first fight, I'm going to have to put him against Anderson Silva. But it was real. I mean, it was like all the talk. And Uriah was bringing these skills in that nobody had seen before. And the only time Uriah ever stubbed his toe, or when he finally stubbed his toe, is just after people had some footage on him, right? I mean, it was just like Machida, or it was just like Wonder Boy. It was like some of these guys that have this really unique skill set, but if you have enough fights and you can sit and break them down enough, you can come up with a little bit better plan. I'm more trying to share for you that when you are a young guy bursting onto the scene, it's important that you look up to somebody. And for Uriah Hall to look up to Anderson Silva, who was the champion in his weight class, makes sense. And that's what he did. For Uriah to think that he was going to end up in there with Anderson, even if that's what he was training for and hoping for as a young guy that hadn't even debuted in the UFC, I mean, right, you're pretty safe. You got to be careful when you look up to somebody. Before you know it, your heroes become your opponents, right? It's a tough spot. But you have to look up to somebody. And for Uriah to look up to Anderson, who he was more than likely never going to face because Anderson was the established champion and Uriah hadn't debuted yet, he's pretty safe. Fast forward, here we are. And I know for sure, even in Anderson's best day, in Anderson's absolute best day, Uriah can beat him. Now, I would concede back Anderson could beat him too. That's just going to be a really good fight. They fight extremely similar. Neither one is going to go and try to take the other one down, so you know exactly what you're getting into, which is a fisticuffs. In many ways, we knew that. Take you guys back, but you'll agree with me. We knew that when Anderson was getting ready to fight Adesanya. Nobody's going to double-cross this kickboxing match we're about to see. Neither one of these guys at any point is going to change elevation and try to tackle the other one. And we just know that going into this fight, too. That's just not what they're going to do. Uriah believes he can outstrike Anderson, and he wants to fight on his feet against Anderson and everybody else. Anderson going to have his own beliefs, and he fights on his feet. We just know what we're getting into, and so now you come down to, well, who does it better? And by the way, this is where age comes in large part. Uriah is simply faster than Anderson Silva. I am sharing with you a reality. I'm the other side of the coin. I'm nervous. Does Uriah know? Does Uriah know? Because that's a hard spot that I think you guys can relate to. You remember when you were freshmen? There was a senior in the school that you looked up to. At whatever sport it might have been. At whatever activity it might have been. And all these years later, if you were to see that same senior now, you're going to have those same memories of when you were a freshman, you looked up to that guy and you're going to be nice to him, right? It's just what he's not going to expect you to be, but you just will be. And there's always something that goes into a fight. Every single one, particularly a big fight like this, particularly a main event fight. Got all these spotlights on Anderson now. Everything Anderson does is interesting. It's a world title fighter. He's changing weight classes, or it's a comeback fight because his leg was hurt, or in this case, it's his last fight. He has every right to have these spotlights. He has earned them. I sometimes wonder if Uriah Hall knows why he is in this spot. Does Uriah Hall know that Dana White has never done a favor for anybody on their way out the door? That's not the way this business works. Bob Arum doesn't do it. Coker doesn't do it. Eddie doesn't do it. Vince McMahon doesn't do it. You pass the torch. Does Uriah know that he was not brought in to be showcased tonight? Uriah was brought in to take that goddamn torch. The experts of this sport believe that Uriah Hall is the man to do it, to end it. Does Uriah Hall know that?